All right, we're back for a second half of my interview with a boomer deadhead. We have Bob, and Bob and I only got to speak for 1 hour last time. And then what was good about having the cutoff was that apparently since then, well, one, we have comments on the original video that we can probably answer later in this chat, but Bob was able to take notes and jog his memory of a lot of
Remember a
things.
few more things, yeah.
Yes, a few more details. All right, so let's just start with what you have because I'm just going to let you tell me what you thought of. So,
Okay, so I did watch your Dear Prudence video, Jerry Band, and um, the comment I really have for me, for the most part, if you have a choice when you're doing a new song that you've never heard before, I would listen to the Dead from 1970 to 1982.
okay. 1970 to
Yes,
1982.
yes.
So, those are the best years.
I think so. 82 is the last year. They still played really long sets. Jerry's voice was still decent, and he hadn't started heroin yet.
Good to know. So,
83 is when it started to decline.
okay.
Um, so if you have a choice, and my favorite years are really 72 to 82,
Hmm.
but there's some good stuff in 70, and there are some good shows later on. I mean, because they're a true jam band, it's like a roller coaster. I mean, every once in a while you still hit a good show, even in the kind of off years.
Hmm.
Um, but I also want to discuss Jerry Band because you did that a little bit. He didn't always have the same band, except for the bass player.
Okay. So, the
And
band.
he a lot of years had two female singers with him, which really helps enhance his vocals. And and he was also in a bluegrass band where he plays banjo.
Well, I
Couple.
learned in the documentary, I watched the first three episodes of A Long Strange Trip
Yeah,
for
I saw that when it first came out. Yeah.
yeah, so I just was watching it this weekend on the plane, and so I was like, "Oh, Jerry was a expert bluegrass banjo player before." I was like, "Oh, that explains a
Yes.
lot." So I learned some background.
So that band was called Old and in the Way, and there are at least one album, if not two. Um, and if you like that kind of thing, because you said you like Billy Strings,
Hmm.
um, and then after that, he was actually in a band that had horns called Legion of Mary.
Okay, would you describe it? It's like because I just reacted to Chicago, the band, yesterday, and
Not, no, it's
they're
nothing
like,
like
dur,
that. It's
dur,
still
dur, dur.
Jerry. It's still Jerry,
Okay,
but there's horns.
there was a
I
lot
mean,
of horns in
Jerry.
Chicago. That's what I heard yesterday.
Yes.
I was like,
Which
this is.
song do you listen to?
I listened to it. The album's called Chicago 2, and it's side to the first disc, which is like the Girl for Buchanan or something, or
Did you
there's a
listen to
medley.
25 or 624?
No, it was like a medley. I've heard of that song though, but it was the medley on side two of two.
There's a screaming live version of that song.
Okay, I'll have to add that to
Back,
my list. Well,
back.
as soon as the video comes out for Chicago, I imagine the Chicago fans are going to be notified
Yeah.
on YouTube,
Yes.
and then
Right.
they're going to come to the channel because it's
Right.
going to
Yeah.
show up in
Yeah.
their algorithm. So that was just like a
Yeah.
suggestion from a fan, and I was like, all right.
So I really like them, but Jerry's Jerry. I mean, no matter who he's playing with, you can tell it's Jerry. Once you get to know
Yeah.
him, you can tell it's his guitar. It's just, he's Jerry.
Hmm.
Um, and then in the mid 70s, have you ever heard of Maria Muldaur?
Mm-mm.
She was actually famous on her own right. Her and Donna from the Dead were in his band, and then in the 80s and 90s, it was these two other women.
Hmm.
They were with him for a long time. Uh, all worth listening to. And he also played with a guy called Merle Saunders, and they do an
I
amazing.
heard of that name, but
They did an amazing version of Dylan's "Positively 4th Street" and of Jimmy Cliff's "The Harder They Come, the Harder They Fall."
wow.
So those things are worth dipping your toes in.
Okay.
Um, and then because you saw Fish, and I don't know if and you like Billy Strings, I don't know if you know, but on YouTube there are plenty of videos where Trey sits in with Billy's band and Billy sits in with Trey's band.
I heard about that. Yeah.
Yeah, they're worth seeing.
And I think Billy will probably sit in with Dead and Co at the because I think the special
Oh yeah,
guests. I think they're opening and they're gonna play with them.
yes, he's played actually when Bill Kreutzmann was still playing a little more, one of the drummers from the Dead. He did some stuff from Hawaii where he lives, and Billy Strings was one of the guitar players on one of those shows.
Wow.
So I mean, he's part of that larger family. So I'm sure he'll play with them.
Awesome. There's just so much overlap. It's now all kind of coming
Yeah,
together,
yeah, there is a lot of
and
overlap.
now and then from the fish side, they all explain that a lot of people came over right after Jerry died. There was like a big
They
influx of
did.
fans to fish.
Yeah,
So
so like I said before, I saw them in '93 first, and I looked because I looked at the set list from the shows you went to, and I probably would have liked the second set better, the second day better
I did too.
myself from the song selection. From the looks of it, although song selection doesn't always mean anything, sometimes they can play your favorite song, it's not that great, and play a song you don't know, and it's fantastic. But um, so I did remember why uh, the shows got smaller in 79, 80, 81, and 82. The 60s and early 70s Deadheads didn't really like Keith and Donna. They didn't like Donna.
Oh.
So they broke up for that year and a half. And when they came back together, everybody wanted to go back and see the Dead. And then there was new people like me in 76. And then we were considered Terrapin Deadheads because they really started touring in 77, and that's when Terrapin came out. So
Hmm.
those people faded. They didn't they didn't like the new band.
The Donna version of
It
the
just
band.
wasn't the same. They were big Pigpen. A lot of people were huge Pigpen fans.
Yeah. Well, I just got to
Which
that
I don't
part
know
of
if
the
you realize it, but
documentary.
he's the one that sang "It Hurts Me Too," which you just listened to.
Oh yeah, I didn't
If
like
you
it.
don't like
I
blues,
was
but
like, it was so slow and depressing.
yeah,
But he was a blues guy, so like,
he
look,
was a blues guy.
the documentary taught me a lot of interesting things that now I'm like,
Makes sense.
oh, and because I've listened to a few songs now, I recognize the songs in the documentary. So in the documentary,
Oh,
they
yeah,
played
that's
Saint
cool.
Stephen and they played 11, and I was like, oh, I recognize that. And then they played some of the other older stuff and that I know, and I was like, oh, so I'm at the part of the documentary where actually Donna joins the band. That's the where I last left off. So, and with her
Yeah,
husband, who's the classical pianist, and
Keith. Yeah,
yes,
he really fit well.
yes, I don't think her voice is very good. Like, so from what I heard in a very short part of the documentary where she was like in a video practicing with them, my initial reaction was she doesn't sound that good. Like, she
That's
was
how a
kind
lot
of
of people.
wailing and
That's how a lot of people felt, but that's what she was told to do. And there's actually a documentary about a southern country place that put out a lot of music back before in the '60s called Muscle Shoals. And she was like one of the studio singers that sang on a bunch of people's music back then because you would just use kind of like Motown. There was these group of guys that play on almost all Motown stuff, and it was just the singer that was the front person. Um, but she has some pretty songs too. A lot of people hated what she didn't play in the band. I don't know if you've listened to that song because she did some screaming and stuff. But
yeah, I think
um,
that's where I am in the doc. It's like, she joined, but the episode before that was more fun because it told me about how they had the record contract, but then they weren't writing the album. And so the executives were getting really upset. Like, you need to record something. And they're like, no, we don't. And they were like so contrarian. And they wouldn't even take a picture. And then the documentary's like, the photographer was following him, like, we need a picture of the band. And they're like, why do we need a picture of us? What does it matter
yeah,
what we look like? And the record company was like, ah, like, we want to
yeah,
wring your neck. And then they talked about how the people who were making the film, they started getting dosed by the band. Like the band was like drugging them. I was like, you can't make this up. I was like, this is crazy. Like, so this
yeah,
documentary is just going. I'm already like, wow, I can't wait to watch the rest. But I learned that how Europe '72 came about because they needed an album. Oh, and the
yeah.
Working Man's Dead was like their big hit because it was marketable. And then
72 is actually my favorite year.
yeah, and then the movie they were making, like so it
Yeah.
all kind of went together that like they're like we need to make a movie to promote the band because this band is only a live thing, but the record company didn't yet have a model for what the Dead were doing
Correct.
because they only
Nobody
knew how to
really,
sell records.
nobody was quite doing that. Frank Zappa was kind of that way and had a lot of clashes with his record company too. I
Yeah.
think that they were on Warner Brothers then.
Yeah, so that was cool. And then one last thing, and then you can go on with your big list. I know you have, but the
That's okay.
the fact that what I've really put together now is it was this magical historical lineup. Like all the stars had to have aligned at the exact time that this band even happened. It was like what was going on with the world. Then there was like that Palo Alto, San Francisco beatnik poetry movement, right? So
Yep.
that was happening. Then you have the fact that Jerry's like teaching guitar. Oh, he has the bluegrass background that came from his father who died young that motivated him to be so hardworking. Then he's teaching these other guys. Then he's like, hey, Phil, learn to play bass even though you don't know
Yep.
how to play bass.
Yeah,
And he's like,
Phil was a trumpet player.
yeah, it just, and like the fact that, and then it's like, oh, wait, Pigpen, he's a random blues guy. Like, oh, this
Yep.
drummer is an R&B drummer. And so then the documentary kind of explained it in such a good way that I was like, oh, and then because they did the acid test together, they learned how to like separate their egos, and that's what made them become this weird conglomerate jam where
Yeah.
they kind of all went around each other, and it was just a sound no one had ever heard before.
Big Pen didn't like that stuff. He didn't take drugs. He was a drinker.
Well, yes, and so again, so the band's gone through so many eras. And so that's at least, even only 3 episodes into the 6-part series, I'm already like, wow, I've learned so much, and I'm glad. And a lot of it you guys have told me in comments, which was helpful because when it
Right.
came up in the movie, hearing it a second time from like a professional narrated
Sure.
thing, it then
Right.
really sunk in. So it's good I had the context of all the comments people were telling me, and then to see it in the video in like a chronological order, and just hearing about their background as kids, and it just makes a lot of sense. So now I'm sure the documentary is going to get real crazy the second half because
Yeah.
things are just about to get. I'm just at the part where like Donna and her husband joined the band, and then there's going to be a whole
Big Pen
nother.
was getting sick,
Mhm.
and he really wasn't that good of a keyboard player. He was harmonica, guitar, singer,
Mhm.
blues, like you said. Um, and actually, I remembered then later. So in '79, Keith and Donna were fired in the beginning of '79.
So 72 to 79.
Yeah. So I saw a show in Detroit where Donna wasn't there. Keith was there, but Donna wasn't there. And I found out later, because like I said before, I really don't like diving into people's personal lives because then I might not like them and then I don't want to listen to their music anymore. um, but I think they were arguing a lot. They were having relationship problems and it was affecting the band.
Hmm.
So in the spring of '79, they hired Brent Midland. He was a great keyboard player and he could sing the high harmony with Bob and Jerry. And so there was like the Brent Midland, basically the '80s, because then he overdosed in '89.
Wow.
And then him and Jerry used to do heroin together. Um, but Brent was a great addition to the band. He really added some new energy. And 81, 82, I thought were great. '83 is when Jerry started doing heroin, and it just kind of. But then I also realized I'm going to jump around a little bit. I think after Brent died in '89, Jerry started scuba diving and cleaned up a little bit
To
and
his love
lost
for
his
the
weight, and he looked a
ocean.
little better. So when I saw
Yeah.
him in Europe in 1990, and they had added Bruce Hornsby, who you may have heard, well, he's kind of famous,
I've heard the name, yeah.
and they had another keyboard player, but Bruce played with them for about a year and a half. There was a pretty good energy. Some of those '90s shows were okay.
So you traveled to Europe in the 90s to see them perform it in Europe.
I did.
Which cities?
Uh, uh, Stockholm, Hamburg, Berlin, Frankfurt, Paris, and London.
You went on tour. I mean, you were on your own little tour. Did you take
Yeah,
a train around?
I did.
And back then you had to have traveler checks.
I did have traveler's check.
Yeah. No, I just know back then you used to have to, if you went to Europe, they'd be like, don't forget to get traveler's checks. And like,
So, yeah, a couple cool things that happened on that trip was so we were and I was with my girlfriend the first half and two German people that I met through trading tapes the second half that lived in Germany, but we traded international. Excuse me. And there was there was a lot of cool stuff that happened, but so we were in a overnight sleeper car and but we had to cross from Sweden to Denmark. And I just assumed we get on. They actually pulled the whole damn train on the boat. We didn't have to get
whoa.
off the train. I mean, you could go up to the other parts of the boat.
This was
And
a
they,
ferry.
you
It
didn't
was a
take the
train.
engine, they just pushed the cars on
The train goes on the ferry, and then the ferry takes you, and then you get
on the
back on the
Denmark.
track.
Yeah,
That's funny. I
it
didn't
was
know
pretty
that.
cool. And then in Berlin, since it was '90, the Berlin Wall came down in '89. I don't know how much fan of history you are,
Well,
but
I do know a little bit about that, but I was 4.
okay.
But yes.
So So parts of it were still up, and you could rent a hammer for 5 marks. And so I have pieces of the Berlin Wall with some graffiti on them
Oh,
because
cool.
I
I went to
tipped them off.
Berlin 2 years ago and I got to see like Checkpoint Charlie, and they still have parts of
Is it
I.
all shot up? Because when I was there, it was all destroyed. The glass was all broken. It was
Oh,
all,
now it's really nice, but
oh, so it's like a museum.
I did a bike tour, like a historical bike tour, and it was all about the wall. And actually, they took us to parts of the wall that still stand, to kind
Yeah,
of like history. But then they talked about the whole reunification of the city. But that's so cool that you were there, and it was 1990. I mean, the wall was
yeah, it
still
was,
basically up.
yeah, it was a little less than a year, I think, after actually, it was Ronald Reagan tear down this wall. Uh, those, that was cool. That was added. And the concert was in a place that was like a political meeting place. Our seats had like desks
Oh,
where
it
they
was
had jacks
like
for
a.
phones, and it was to have a meeting,
So how
like a Congress.
many? But how many European I mean, did they have a big fan base in Europe at the time? Because it was pre-internet. So how did all these people know about it?
Germany and England have a
Okay.
lot of deadheads back in those days.
Okay. And did you find out about this from because you guys didn't have the internet yet, so you must have had a mailing list.
It was the 800 number by then.
Okay.
So I could actually send the Grateful Dead. They sold a package with all the tickets for each
It
show.
was like, how many do you want to sign up for Europe? Here's our list. Tell me which ones you want, and then they
Yep.
sent them all to you at
So I just
once.
got 2 tickets to each show.
That's so cool.
Um,
That is
so
so
yeah,
cool.
it was the 800 number by then. So and it was pretty easy. And then they went through this phase, getting to the mid 80s, where the song "I Need a Miracle," which is on Shakedown Street, which is a very popular song, but it's one of those songs I've heard too many times.
Oh, and that's why people say like like I need a miracle, like
I
a
need a
ticket.
miracle.
Yes, okay. And then
That's not what it meant
oh,
originally.
okay.
So somebody did that to me. I had some extra tickets, actually. Somebody did that to me in, was it Berlin? Like so they became kind of a college kid band, kind of like Dave Matthews was in the
Mhm.
90s. Um, this kid came, I need a miracle. I walked up and I'm like, dude, it cost you at least $1,200 to be standing here right now. The flight was $1,200 round trip. So there was 2 local German kids wondering what's going on. I just gave them the tickets right in front of the guy. I'm like, I can't fucking believe you're looking for a free ticket
So an
when
American kid flew
when you're a
over to
rich
Europe.
yuppie college student. I'm like, you fucker. Pardon my.
So it's fine. YouTube luckily is not censored anymore. So like it's like you can so he like basically flies over from America for like all this
Yeah.
money and then wants a handout.
Yes. I
Okay.
I was so annoyed that I just gave them to these 2 German kids. I was just
I like the principle.
and I don't really I've had extra tickets and I sell tickets. And like now I sell stuff sometimes on StubHub, but I sell them for less than I pay for them because I just want to get most of my money back.
Yeah.
I'm not looking to make a profit.
Yeah. I mean scalping is yucky, but even then, I think not that many scalpers make that much. I think in the end, like I noticed that ticket prices, I'll sometimes buy them last minute and they go down a little bit. And if you wait the day
Yes, they
of the
do.
show, then people get desperate and start to drop.
Yes, they
So
do. Yeah.
there's a point where it's always inflated, but then you wait a
Yeah.
little longer, it goes back down. So you can't. It's not such a sure thing. And I think what happened with this Dead and Company thing is they all sold out like right away. But I
Of
think
course they did.
I don't think people are gonna scalp as much as they think. Like I think that there's 60,000 tickets or something. Like I think they're
Yes.
gonna drop.
So a completely funny side story. U2 played in Tempe, Arizona, 2 shows at a football stadium, and it became a movie. Um, they were at the top of their game. Uh, I can't remember. Joshua Tree maybe was the album, and but so for the movie, they wanted to make sure the football stadium where Arizona State played football was packed. Tickets were only $5. I didn't know much about U2, and BB King was warming them up, who's kind of a famous guy, although it's blues, so you might not like it. So I went down there. My brother-in-law loves this story. BB King was almost done. I had seen BB King in small venues before. And I went up to this guy, I said, I'll give you $2. He was trying to scalp tickets. I'm like, you can either lose your five or you can get $2. And he's like, all right. So I paid $2 to see you too.
Yeah.
But yeah, scalping, I usually had tickets. I did remember talking to my sister. I went to New Year's 1981 in Oakland, and I didn't actually have tickets for that show. And I went with my brother Jim, and we drove up to the Coliseum where Golden State used to play, the Warriors used to play.
Yeah, East Bay, huh?
And it said Earth, Wind, and Fire on the marquee. I'm like, oh. And I'd actually seen Earth, Wind, and Fire back in the early 70s. I don't know if you know who they are, but
I've heard of them, yeah.
um, it turns out they were at the Oakland Auditorium, and the box office released some tickets that morning. So I'm like, so we got in. And that would be one of my top 10 shows. It was a four-set show. Joan Baez warmed up, who you may have heard of, and the Dead were her backup band.
Yeah, wasn't Joan Baez the one in the Bob Dylan movie?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I saw that movie, and I was like, oh,
Okay.
there's a
Yeah.
story there. Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, they definitely went their separate ways eventually, but they were together for a little while. She actually helped catapult him
And so she was really famous, I guess, at the time if she had the Grateful
before him.
Dead.
Yeah.
But then even to have, you're saying the Dead were her backup band? Or Earth, Wind, and Fire were her backup band?
1981
Okay.
at this New Year's Eve show. She was a guest.
Okay.
And then they played two sets, two regular full sets like normal, and they came out for a third set of their own stuff where I saw my first Dark Star. Because they weren't playing Dark Star very much by that time. Um, and then um, I don't think they used the Oakland Auditorium anymore. I think it became the Kaiser after that. I saw it 2 years in a row there, 82, 81, 82, and in 82, the Tower of Power horn section and Etta James. I don't know if you've heard of them, but they're famous. Played the third set with Grateful Dead.
Okay. Wow.
Then in 84, in 83 and 84, they moved over to what was called the San Francisco Civic, which you know is the Bill Graham.
Oh, it was San Francisco Civic, which makes sense. It's in the Civic Center. Okay.
Yeah.
So they renamed it to
Yes.
Bill Graham in honor of all of Bill Graham's contributions, I'm guessing.
Yes, and because he died in a
Uh-huh.
helicopter crash.
He did? See, I don't even know this.
Yeah. It was a fluke thing. I mean,
Well, it's
it was
like Kobe Bryant died in a
So in
helicopter
80,
crash.
and Stevie Ray Vaughan.
I don't trust helicopters personally. Like, I don't
So,
want to get in one.
so in 82, I didn't have a ticket either, but I was in a Grateful Dead cover band called the Deadbeats back then.
It's cute.
We did play some Allman Brothers and a few other songs, but it was 80% Grateful Dead. And we were like a college party band. Um, so the guitar player, Mark, wasn't going to go. And he said, well, you can have my tickets. I'm like, how can I get them? He goes, well, you got to go to this warehouse at some address in San Francisco. And I'm like, okay. So I walk in and you go up steps to the second floor. There's a big poster of Jerry back when he was shaved and he had that red, white, and blue hat on, American flag hat. It was Bill Graham's warehouse where he kept all of his paraphernalia and posters and music stuff and ran his operations. And then here was an envelope addressed to Mark Schwartz, but it said Stanger on it, although they spelled my last name wrong. Um, I was just like, it was so surreal. Um, but other than that, usually I had tickets though, because I don't like having to look for,
I
trying
mean,
to
that would
scout.
stress me out. I don't, the guy,
Yeah,
at this point, I'm like, I don't want to show up and have to be stressed out. And what if you don't get in? The anxiety
yeah,
would get to me. And how disappointing if you, I mean, did you ever not get in?
no.
Okay. Because then that's a
The
story.
only shows that I had tickets for that I didn't get to go to because the was a Stanford 84, maybe, at the
Hmm.
Frost, because the tire, my rear tire fell off my car. I'm driving there, and it was a whole mess. I never made it.
But you never were outside a venue trying to be like ticket, and then they're like, sorry,
No,
sold
no.
out.
By the time the I Need a Miracle, my life had changed. I had a little more money. I like to pre-plan these things. I always had tickets by that time. That song came out in 78, 78, 79, 80, 81, 82. There was no I Need a Miracle thing yet.
Right, right,
That was
right.
later.
So people used to just be responsible and buy tickets and send in their little mailer with their self-addressed
Yeah,
stamp, you know,
yeah.
like or buy it, call the box office, like normal human beings. Like,
Yeah, by then you could get them, and then you really couldn't get them online until the 90s, really.
I think the internet, I mean, AOL was starting to come out in like the mid late 90s, so no one really was buying things. Like
Yeah.
Amazon probably came out.
And the Dead just completely took charge of their ticket sales, kind of like, and this is something I think Fish learned from the Dead, because they sell their own tickets
Hmm.
also. You get away from these Ticketmaster type
It's better. They do the lottery
goons.
thing. Yes. Well, Taylor Swift tried to take down Ticketmaster and she couldn't even do it. Like, and she's,
She would have had to make that step. See, nobody probably suggested this to her to just take control of your own ticket sales.
yeah.
You do it yourself. You hire an office and you do your own ticket sales.
Yeah, but probably whoever her manager is, they're just going with the standard, and everyone
Right.
only uses. There's only like Live Nation. There's like two producers that exist. It's like,
There's some smaller ones showing up now
yeah,
because I go to some smaller shows and they're not Live Nation or Ticketmaster. So
yeah,
there are some smaller ones.
a few.
Um, so then in 1980, I kind of forgot to mention. So 1970, the Grateful Dead did a tour where they did three sets and one was acoustic.
Cool.
So in 1980, they did an anniversary kind of thing. They did 15 shows at the Warfield, two shows in New Orleans where they got busted, which is the set up like a bowling pin line from the song Truckin'. Um, and then how many? Eight at Radio City Music Hall in New York.
Okay, eight's quite a lot.
And I went to the Halloween show at Radio City. So I was back visiting people at Ohio University. I was living in Arizona, but you get lonely, miss your friends. I went back and um, we got tickets to the Radio City show. So that was fun, and they were still great. And some of that acoustic stuff they actually released in Elton. You may like some of that stuff. Since you like Billy Strings, you must like acoustic music.
I do.
Um, and then, I looked up because you asked me who did I see in the early 70s. So I want to go through a couple bands and see if you know who they are.
Okay.
So have you ever heard of Iggy and the Stooges? Iggy Pop?
Iggy Pop. I've heard of Iggy Pop. I've never heard a song.
Okay, that's Iggy and the Stooges. They're kind of a punk band.
Okay.
The James Gang?
Never heard of it.
Um, the James Gang, who came from that one? Joe Walsh, who eventually joined the Eagles.
Oh, I know the Eagles. Okay.
I figured you would.
Yeah.
Um, I'm guessing you haven't heard of Mott the Hoople,
No, first time hearing that in my life. I learned
who
something.
they were kind of flailing, and David Bowie wrote a song for them that was a big hit and kind of saved their career for a little while. Uh, Kansas? You may
I've
have
heard of Kansas because they
Yeah,
have that song I like.
I saw them in '74. They were
Well,
brand new.
yeah, no, I have that one song I like. Is it Carry On My Wayward
Carry On My
Son?
Wayward
Yeah,
Son.
that was in Guitar Hero. One of those like
Oh,
Nintendo
that's funny.
games. Yeah, so I was like, Carry On My Wayward Son. That's how I
Yep.
learned about it.
So, Todd Rundgren?
No. Well, it's spelled with a J, right? Jungren? I might have seen it. I've
Yes.
never heard it. I've seen the name.
Blue Oyster Cult?
I know Blue Oyster Cult because they have the one with the cowboy, the Reaper. Don't fear
Don't
the
Fear the Reaper. Yeah.
Reaper.
That was
Yeah.
later in the career.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but then when I was growing up, there was a period where my dad was obsessed with Don't Fear the Reaper, and one of the first CDs he burned, because he was like early adopter of technology, had
Yeah.
the Blue Oyster.
Yep. Yep. That's the
So, yeah.
one.
Yeah, that's the one I know with the cowbell.
Grand Funk Railroad? Yeah, I believe that. Aerosmith, you had to have heard of
I know
Aerosmith.
Aerosmith.
Yeah.
They also
Um,
kept making music into the late 90s.
they
Like,
did.
yeah, so that's
Yeah.
why, because they were
They're
still.
still alive. I just don't think
Aerosmith did a song on
they
that.
don't talk to each
They
other.
did a movie, there was a soundtrack song. I don't want to fly away, because I miss you, babe, and I don't want to miss a
Yeah.
thing. Because they kept making music till like 2001, So that's why I know them.
Foghat,
Mm-mm.
okay. Dave Mason. He was in a band called Traffic with Steve Winwood
I
originally.
heard of Traffic.
Okay. I'll just get a couple more. Leonard Skinner. There's no way you haven't
I've
heard of Leonard
heard of
Skinner.
Leonard Skinner.
Rush,
I've heard of
David
Rush.
Bowie,
Bowie, yes.
Rufus with Chaka Khan.
No.
So you should listen to their old school version of Tell Me Something Good. It's a great song.
Okay.
Um, I'll just do a couple more here. Santana, you had to have heard
Yes.
of. Paul McCartney, you had to have
Yes.
heard of. Return to Forever, which was a fusion band, jazz fusion band with a Chick Corea, a amazing keyboard player, actually. So you might
Okay.
like their stuff. Romantic Warrior, I think, is one of their best albums. And that Steve Miller, you've probably heard of.
I've heard
The
of the
Doobie Brothers.
Steve Matt Miller band. Yes.
Yeah, Steve Miller, the Doobie Brothers, Earth, Wind and Fire,
Yes.
Genesis, Weather Report, Crosby, Stills, Nash, and
I've heard
Figure.
of
So
them.
that's the stuff I was seeing in the early 70s.
Okay. So, wow, that's funny. Actually, that whole segment where you just name a band and I react is actually just that alone is like YouTube gold. Like Boomer names music and then sees the reaction. We do the same thing now with little kids. Like we show them like a cassette player and see if they can figure out what it is. It's the
Oh,
funniest channel. It's called like I forget what it's called. Like kids react to technology, but basically they give kids like things like a cassette. Someone gave them
hell,
it's the best video. They gave them a Walkman, and then they give them a
yeah.
tape. Well, first
I used to have one of
they
those.
go, what do you think this is? And the kid's like, I don't know, and they're like playing with it, and then they go, oh here, this is what you need to use it, and then they take the cassette, and somehow the kid figures it out. Like they've never seen it. They're like, I think I've seen this in a movie once or something. Then
Right.
the kid presses play, and they don't hear anything, and they're like, how come I don't hear anything? And then the person goes, oh, you have to plug in headphones. They're like, what? You have to plug in, because like the idea that like how phones just have audio,
Yeah,
the
yeah.
concept that these Walkmans and Discmans didn't have speakers. like like if you think about it from reverse engineering, it's like why wouldn't it have just had a little speaker? But no. No. So it's like they figured out how to play a tape, but you had to have
Well, for
aux.
one reason that you can listen to it and not annoy other people around you
Yes.
instead of just playing it on a speaker.
Yeah, but I mean it's funny because boom boxes came out later, right? Like didn't a boom
No,
box.
boom boxes were super popular in the late 60s or no,
Oh,
mid 70s.
with a cassette boombox?
Yeah, mid 70s.
Okay, so then having the Walkman was on purpose as a personal device. Okay.
Yeah, a lot of people wore them when they went jogging or something.
Yeah, okay. So it wasn't that they were like, we invented a portable tape player. It was like they already had they already had a
Yeah,
boombox.
they had the boom
Okay.
box. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Good to know.
Uh,
That's all sorted. It's just that our phones can do both. Our phones can have headphones
well,
or
and
they
they're
can play out
wireless.
and they're wireless and
Yeah.
they can connect to Bluetooth speakers. So it's like,
Yeah.
wow, like kids. So that's like me reacting to the 70s bands. I'm like never heard of it before.
I do have, well, I have some more modern bands that we can either talk about or I can just send you
Okay. Hey, we can
because
go
I've got some
anywhere.
stuff.
We can go anywhere in this conversation because I know you've made a lot of
Okay.
notes and I know we need to hit on some important things. So we can always do that too. But or if you have questions or
So
whatever.
okay, I just did my more bands from the 70s. So then the Dead, when I think they were still, in 82, they were still pretty good. Jerry was still pretty strong. And in 80, Bobby had a band called Bobby and the Midnights, and we used to call him Hollywood Bob back then because he was all clean cut and his band was all clean cut and polished. And but they had some good songs. Um, uh, and Billy Cobham was the drummer, which is one of the best drummers in the world ever. He's also in Mahavishnu Orchestra, which I mentioned last time. Um, so so in 82, there was this guy that was super rich that wanted to do a Woodstock kind of thing. It was called the US Festival in Southern California. And it was 3 days. One day was more new wavy B-52s, Talking Head stuff. Uh, I don't remember the middle day right now, but the Sunday, the Grateful Dead played.
Ooh,
And they played at 10 o'clock in the morning.
ooh, what a slot.
And Phil came out and he didn't talk much, but he came out and said, "Settle down and spread. It's time for breakfast in bed with the Grateful Dead." And then they played a kind of a short, just one set because there was
Uh-huh.
five bands. It was the Dead, Jerry Jeff Walker, Jimmy Buffett, Jackson Brown, and Fleetwood Mac.
Okay. That's pretty solid lineup.
Yeah, and there was like 280,000 people there.
Still though, 10 a.m. slot, you almost feel like they're either bringing them in early so people
It was
show up
so weird
early.
seeing them in that much
Like,
sunlight.
yeah. But it's also like 10 a.m. slot. It's like usually the least famous band goes first.
Well, Fleetwood Mac was definitely very famous in 1982.
Yes, that was their big.
They were the headliner.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But the Dead were up there with Jackson Brown and Jimmy Buffett.
Maybe they wanted to go early because they were like, let's get out of here.
Yeah, I have no idea.
Or they could have
Um,
had to travel to a different concert. Sometimes they take the early
um,
spot so they can get on the tour bus to the next show.
so this guy lost tons of money. He put on this thing because he wanted to.
Oh, okay. So it wasn't even well.
I
It
can't
wasn't even
remember
well
the name.
run.
There's actually a documentary about that.
Well, I'm sure it wasn't as bad as the Fire Festival. Did you ever hear about the Fire Festival? It was like this music festival that was
Like
about.
was that a, oh yes, I
They
did.
did like an island and then they sold all these tickets, but they didn't
Yeah,
even
yeah,
have
yeah,
like
completely collapsed.
facilities. And then
Yeah,
everybody showed up and it was like a complete disaster. And there was
yes,
no actual bands. And then everyone had to
yeah.
escape and there wasn't airfare. So it couldn't have been that bad. So it wasn't the worst scandal of all.
Well, the concert was great.
Yeah.
Um, and the guy was a multimillionaire, so he lost a little money.
Oh, okay. He just
He didn't
wasn't. He
care. He
wasn't
was having
running it.
fun.
Yeah, he wasn't running it to like make money. He wasn't profiting on the tickets. He just kind of was like, let's just bring in these bands I like, and if I get some money, whatever.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense.
It wasn't quite like Woodstock where they were hoping to make a profit, but that just became so out of control that they just stopped even trying to collect tickets.
Right, people
Or
just
so.
hop the fence, right? I mean, did people
Yeah,
just show up in their cars and? Yeah, it seems like things were a little unorganized. Like this other interview that's coming out today, actually, right after you get off this call, you'll be able to watch it. It's the Generation Jones, which I named is there's a mini generation at the end of Boomer, early Gen X. So like if
What,
you're on the cusp, it's called. So if you're on the cusp of, so if
why
you're
are they
like,
called Jones? Because of the guy that, they all drank the Kool-Aid and killed themselves.
I don't know why. I just looked up online. Like, you know how we have Zennials is between Gen X and Millennial. I wanted to know if there was a generation because this guy was a very young boomer. So I felt like, well, he can't really be called a boomer because he's like 19. Like at
Well,
the
if he's
very
born after 1960, he's not a boomer.
no, he's 59. But I feel like then you're like
Oh, I was born in
no,
59.
maybe he was 65. Maybe it was a little later. Maybe
Yes,
63.
that's a little no man's
He's
land. Yeah.
1963, so that's a weird. Yeah, it was 1963,
Yeah.
and I was like, that birthday's a little weird because you're kind of too
Boomers are
old.
over. I'm like the last boomer.
Yeah, you're the last boomer, and then but then the Gen X's, the younger Gen X are more like totally different. Like they're into the 80s
Uh,
music and stuff. So,
and because I was born in 59, I didn't have to register for the draft.
right.
And if you were born in 1960, you did. So all us 59ers went out and
Oh, because
celebrated.
by the time you turned 18, the war was over.
Yes. It,
Right, because
Nixon got us out
59
of
plus
that.
1870, so it's already
Nixon,
70.
but you used to still have to register for the draft.
I thought they still do though, because
I
when
don't, to be honest, I don't know.
I think when my brothers turned 18, they still had to fill out a selective service form. But it was
So I didn't.
really, huh?
But that was in 1978. So yes, the war was done, but they had made this line where they're like, well, now you don't have to register.
No, I'm pretty sure it came back, but no one's had to use it since then. Like they haven't had to draft anyone since then. Because when my colleagues from high school, I graduated high school in 2003, and in 2003 we were in Afghanistan and Iraq. So a lot
Yeah.
of my people my age, they purposely signed up for the army, to go to the Iraq and Afghanistan war. Most people didn't. No one was drafted in that period. They just joined. So it was just interesting. But so like yeah, my
Yeah,
generation, like I think millennial, it's kind of just like the trauma of like Iraq and Afghanistan, which was like just
it's pretty
long,
bad.
really bad. And then
Yeah, it was pretty bad.
now when I look at Afghanistan, I'm like, it's just gone back to how it was, and women have even less rights, so it's kind of sad. That's what I think. They're not allowed to like talk in public, and they can't go near a window, and I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah,
So I guess it's not. I guess it's not us to police it. That's what
I
I
have
kind
lots
of.
of opinions, but I don't want to get too geopolitical.
It's okay. We don't get too political. You can go back to the music. It's just, if people just had the Grateful Dead, they wouldn't even have all these weird rules. Right? Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Can't people just follow music instead of following weird protests? Yeah, there's just like a lot of weird people. It's like, can you just like go to a music festival? Like I just went to a concert and I feel great. People need to just do more social things with people that are all happy, positive vibes, happiness, and stop focusing on negativity and stop being angry at the world. It's just start to.
Yes, I think because of all the music I've been to, that helped me get through a lot of that kind of stuff because I focused on music.
Yeah, I think it's great.
So there's a Bobby song from the '60s called "The Other One," which I don't think you've listened to yet. It's kind of an unusual song, but there's a line, the bus came by and I got on, that's where it all began. And that's what we used to say about people that were starting to get into the Grateful Dead. Oh, when'd you get on the bus?
Someone just said that to me. They're like, welcome, you've gotten on the
Yeah,
bus. And I'm like, hey,
come on
I'm
in.
late. They're like, I'm late to the party, but I'm
It
here.
won't be like Forrest Gump where they go, you can't sit here.
Yeah, I can't sit here. No, only those mean, and I've called them the mean Mr. Mustard, so it's my favorite.
So
And the blue meanies, so.
then in '79, I went to Red Rocks, which is a place worth going to in Colorado.
I've heard of it. I've seen pictures.
It used to hold about 8,000, but I think it holds 10 now. So it was the first time I like flew somewhere to go see a Grateful Dead concert. And it was still kind of the old experience because like the first night was at Red Rocks, but the second two nights rained. And I lost my friend Mark, who actually turned me on to the Grateful Dead. And these other people just took me in and I stayed on the floor in their hotel room. And then I was just laying at the McNichols Arena, they used to call it, where their basketball team used to play, but there's now since been a new place built. Um, and we actually didn't have tickets. I did have to scout for that. I forgot about this until just right now. But because the arena was bigger, it was easy to get tickets. You just buy them from the box office.
It's funny, you and Mark didn't come up with a safety plan. You guys didn't come up with a
No.
meeting spot. You did not.
No. And then I was just laying there resting in line, and Mark walked by and goes, Bob. So then we were together the rest of the time.
Oh my God. I can't believe you didn't have phones back then. You couldn't find
no.
anyone. You didn't know anyone was staying. That would be a nightmare.
The exact same thing happened to my nephew when I took him to see String Cheese and Government Mule at Red Rocks, like 20 some years later. We got separated. He ended up, some people took him to this Dead bar that's now closed, Grateful Dead kind of bar in Denver, and then gave him a ride to the hotel.
Oh, he knew he was staying though.
And he knocked on the door. Yes, we had been to the hotel.
Okay,
already.
well that's good. I was like,
But I waited and waited and waited. After an hour and a half, I'm like, I'm going to the hotel.
I lost my son at Disneyland once, but he smartly waited right by the Walt Disney statue. So he kind of was like, I'm going to wait somewhere very prominent, and then I found him. We were kind of near there when he got lost, and the security actually spotted him before me. He was like, what does he look like? I was like, here's a picture. And I was like looking around, and security goes, oh, isn't that him right there? I was like, you're really good at your job. Because I can't see anything. But
So to be honest, because this is so long ago, my parents lost me at the 1964 World's Fair
where was that?
in Brooklyn. I don't know
Brooklyn,
if
New
you've
York?
You ever seen Men in Black?
Yeah.
That globe that the ship crashes? That's real.
Okay.
It was built for the World's Fair.
Oh.
So all that stuff is real right there.
So how old were you when they lost you?
5.
You probably ran away.
To be honest, I don't remember what happened. I just remember them saying. I think they ended up have places that you could go to, and then your parents could check to see if lost children kind of thing.
Yeah, it's probably someone brought you to the lost children area.
I don't remember much about it, to be honest.
They were probably traumatized.
I know my mom was freaked out.
Yeah, no, I've heard of other parents. I know a woman and she lost her child in Central Park, and then somehow someone found it. It was like amazing. And just like when she found her, she was, the biggest relief. I mean, when I was a little kid, I used to hide in the store, in the department stores. You can go into the racks of clothes. Like,
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
you can hide from your mom inside the rack of, you're so small. So you kind of
Yeah.
go in the rack of clothes and you hide from your mom, and then they freak out and then you come out. But I remember hiding as a kid in the departments. I'm so bored. I'm at Macy's and I'm like, oh my God, how long am I going to be at this department store? So you just start going in the clothes racks.
Yeah. So in '82, when the band was still strong, um, I also sometimes like Jerry Band more than I like the Grateful Dead.
That's what other people say.
I think you made a comment about that.
Well, that's what I felt about their Eleanor Rigby. I was like, this is better than anything I'd heard at the time. But now I'm
Yeah.
warmed up a lot to the Dead.
Yeah, there's
You
Grateful
can't
Dead.
compare it. I mean, you can't compare it. So
No,
it's
you
like
can't.
I thought Eleanor Rigby as its own little cover thing, and After Midnight was such a cool like,
Yeah.
a groove, and then it's like goes into this like thing. I was like, wow, that's so good. Very different than now the Americana Dead that I'm really liking.
Yeah.
Um, Very different. You can't compare it. It's like you
No,
can't.
you
It's like you
can't.
can't
And it's
compare
just
the. It's you can't compare the Beatles to the Dead. You just don't do it. It's like they're two different bands.
no,
Right?
no.
They're both good in
They're
their own
so
reason,
different.
but you don't even try it. So that's the thing is like we don't need to compare Jerry Garcia band. I just think there's certain things he did during that period that he was playing better with them in that period than he
So what I
was with
liked
the Dead.
about Jerry Band was it's just so it's not that I don't love Bobby, but I was more drawn to Jerry songs and Jerry and him and Robert Hunter's writing than Bobby and Barlow's writing because Bobby had a lyricist also. Um,
Okay.
um, so I finally got to go see him in '82, and it definitely hadn't hit the big time yet because one place was called Fireman's Hall in Garberville, California.
That sounds really
It
small
held
and
maybe
insignificant.
400 people.
That sounds like not a real venue. I mean, it's
And
like
it's
a
like,
fire
no,
hall.
well, it was one of those little small town. There was a little stage in the corner,
Who
and there was
booked?
also like a basketball hoop on the other
But who
end.
booked them there?
Uh, who knows?
Was that the
But
best they could get? Like,
that
where's
show was great. Billy was his drummer. John's always his bass player. He had two female singers and two keyboard players, a piano and an organ. And I just loved it. Actually, I briefly kind of met him there. He was getting off his bus, and I just said, "Hi, Jerry." I don't really like bugging people. Um, I got an autograph once from a guitar player from England. I jumped in his taxi and he signed something I have with the girl he was with, a lipstick. And I went, okay, that was just stupid. So I just say hi. But and then after Fireman's Hall, he played in Arcata, which is next to Eureka, two shows at a place called Mojo's. And it was actually just a bar with tables and waitresses that come out and serve you. It couldn't have been more than 250 people.
again? How did they get that booking?
I don't
Like,
know, but those shows were great. Just absolutely
and this was
phenomenal.
the Jerry band,
Jerry Band.
so they
Yeah.
just were like, we'll just play some small bars.
Yep.
Like, we'll
People
just.
just didn't know. And then by '94, because you were asking about some stuff, I saw him in Phoenix. I took, it would have been '94, would have been my then wife, um, at Desert Sky Pavilion, which is 20,000 people. One of the seats with the cover and then
Oh,
the lawn, kind
that's
of like a
nice.
shoreline kind
Yeah,
of thing.
awning. Yeah. Uh-huh.
And I mean, it wasn't more than a minute or two into the first song. I'm like, there's something wrong. And of course, Dara didn't actually like the Grateful Dead. She just had to go along with me because I went. And then he only played like four or five songs and he left. He never came back. Didn't do a second set.
So he wasn't well.
It's the drugs. Yeah.
Ugh,
He
heroin.
he just started. I'm just like, there's something wrong, man. His singing and playing is not at the same time. And since you know music, he was just not in sync with the band. He was in his own world and looked like crap.
I
And
mean,
of course, he
any kind
died the
of,
next year.
yeah, I mean, any opiates, I mean, that's just different kind of stuff. And heroin is so addictive. And it's such a downer. I mean, like, it's like,
Yeah, you just get in a trap, man. It's hard to get out of.
Yeah, no, I think all the drugs are obviously, I don't like drugs per se, but I also, rock stars are more known for doing like cocaine and stuff because it keeps them going, right? They're like always on the road. They have to do uppers because
Yeah,
they're
that was
like
a
tired.
70s and 80s drug more. I actually don't know if people do like coke anymore.
I think they do.
Do
I do
they?
think they do. I think they do, but not as much as the 80s. I think then it was more like, oh yeah, it's totally safe. I think now people know it can ruin your life and people are more
Yeah,
careful about it, but it's around.
I didn't. I hate cocaine actually.
Yeah, it's too much quick and down and whatever, but
And
like,
you just want more and more and more and more and more.
yeah,
It's
but the
it's
hair, but I'm
horrible.
saying, but that it's bad, but then it's interesting that he would have turned to a downer drug because
So he used to
heroin is
do for a
so,
while there something they called speedballs, which was a mixture of heroin and cocaine,
oh, well, that's going to mess you up. You're up and down at the
and
same
you
time.
you you inject it.
Ooh,
He was
okay.
hooked on that for a while. In fact, I think he got busted. I might be wrong in Golden Gate Park, shooting up in his car, and he had to do some concerts where all the money went to something.
Oh, okay. Well, that was a app like a the punishment fit the crime, I guess.
And that's when he did a little acoustic tour. And then I guess he really didn't like being alone on stage in a theater. So he had John Conn, the bass player, come in. But I can't remember the years right now on this thing because this was very brief. But one of my favorite shows is when he was all by himself playing acoustic. I didn't like it as well with John on bass. I don't
So,
I don't know why Jerry didn't like it. It was some of my favorite stuff. And that was way later.
but I
And
don't think he's a front man. Like I don't think he's ever wanted to be a
he's
front
not.
man.
Pigpen was a front man.
Yeah, I just don't think Jerry was ever wanting to be the front man because from what I got from the documentary is that Jerry Garcia is like, I'm a guitar teacher, I'm a banjo
Yeah.
player. He wasn't really a lead singer.
I think
He
Bobby liked it, which is why we call him Hollywood Bob.
yeah, and he has that
Back in the
kind of. I can
80s.
even tell he loves the stage. Like you can just tell he
Yeah.
loves it. I was just looking at pictures of him because he is, and he's actually cute. Like when he was young, he was so cute, like
He
so
was cute.
adorable, very adorable. Like I'm sure girls were just like, oh my god,
Girls
like
loved him.
yeah, he has
The
that.
girls
Like
loved Bob.
girls are obsessed with Bobby, right? So whereas like Jerry wouldn't. People like him for different reasons, and no one was gonna like him because he's like the best looking guy or has that pizzazz. He doesn't have
No,
that
he was,
charisma. He's just
if you
talented.
watch some old interviews with him, he was very up and happy and kind. And that's why people liked
Yeah,
him.
he has kind eyes and he's genuine and he's very
Yeah.
talented. But it's different. It's not like the star appeal. Like Bobby has that
No, he's
like,
not.
and
Yeah,
people
Hollywood
like
Bob.
that. People love that star. I mean, that's why anyone that has that rock and roll star vibe, girls go crazy for it. Because it's like that like untouchable. Like oh, there's just it's addictive to watch someone. Also, someone who's having fun on stage
Yes.
makes you feel like you're having fun. So when there's a
Yes.
band and they're really into it, you just have a way better time as an audience member, which is why, just to go back to what I do for a living with teaching singing, part of my job when I'm teaching all these, both kids and adults, and they're singing, I'm like, you look pained right now. Like, you look
Right.
like this is misery. The audience is going to be in misery because you have to be having a good time as a singer, or else the audience suffers. So that's the problem with
Yeah.
singing is that the audience wants to feel at ease. When it seems difficult or you seem stressed, the audience gets uncomfortable. And I'm sure you've been in concerts where you saw the band struggling a bit, whether they're not
Yeah.
playing together or, and it makes you
Which
so
is,
nervous as an
um,
audience member.
one of the reasons I like pigeons playing ping pong because they're having fun. And then I'm listening to three foreign bands right now. They happen to be all female rock bands.
Is it the
They
warning?
still play. The Warning is one of them. It's three sisters out
Yes,
of
I'm supposed to listen to the warning. There's one of five people are like waiting for my warning reaction. They're like, I even had money
So
donated to
watch
me.
them live. Don't watch music
Yes,
videos. Watch them live. They're rock stars already, and all three of them are under 25 years old.
good.
Um, they're amazing, and they're having fun. You can tell they're having fun. And then Bandmate out of Japan, it's five women that play hard rock. I mean, they're all smiling, having fun, and it just makes a huge difference. And Rolling Quartz out of Korea, I just saw them in Knoxville not too long ago because I would have seen them in Phoenix, but I was in Japan seeing Bandmate. um, and they're just fun,
You have to have fun.
happy, jumping around, having a good time, and that just makes the audience have fun.
Yes.
When they look like they're having fun, you're having fun.
That's so true. And that it's true with any performance, whether you're playing or singing, you have to
Yeah.
be having a good time, because that's what people are seeing, and it just makes everyone uncomfortable. So that's why even just, and it's singing, it's so hard because it's in your body. So you have to be
Yeah.
able to breathe and not have the nerves affect your voice, because you have adrenaline, right? So that can affect the technique. So it's a lot, but you still have to be able to have fun and vocally perform. It's pretty difficult. So that's why singing.
Yeah.
That's why when I said the comment about like on the Dear Prudence, I'm like, look, his guitar playing's beautiful, but
Yep.
he's not doesn't have the vocal chops to pull this off. And also, Dear Prudence, as it was originally done, well, the Beatles songs in general, there's a level of drama in them. They're
So Dear
dramatic.
Prudence, to me, the Beatles version
Yeah.
is a perfect song
Yes.
because it starts out with guitar, the drums come in, the vocals come in, it builds, and then it fades back and ends with guitar.
Mm-hmm.
It's a perfect song.
Yeah, it's formed.
Yeah, it's just a perfect song.
Mm-hmm.
So the Warning sing in English. Bandmate sings in Japanese with some English.
Mm-hmm.
Rolling Court sing in Korean with some English. So most people I've tried to turn them on to, they do like the Warning because they sing in English. A lot of them have a language barrier problem.
Right.
Even though Psyche and Bandmate has a beautiful voice. I mean, just
Oh, yeah, I
beautiful.
don't mind foreign music, you know. I mean, all the kids these days listen to K-pop. That's actually
So,
the thing.
yes, so I think the two women that sing the most, all three of them sing in the Warning, they're three sisters. I think you'll like, they got some vocal chops.
Great.
So, anyway, and then after, oh, my brother-in-law wanted me to tell this story. So, do you know baseball very well?
A little bit. Like, I know the
Okay.
game. I don't know all the
You know
history
how it
of.
works,
Yes, I
kind
do
of.
know.
Okay.
Yeah, I know all about the innings. I
So I
played
was
girls
in,
softball, so I do know the rules.
okay, so I was in Cincinnati seeing the dad, a little Midwest tour with my friend Spike. And we were at this hotel. We went to a baseball game. So a lot in the summer, if the team was playing, I'd also go to a baseball game and then the concert, or a museum and then the concert. I tried to do something in the city. And I was sitting at the bar at this hotel, and this guy was whatever team he was following. It wasn't Cincinnati, it was the opposing team. He came to watch the games. And we were talking about the fact that I was there to see the Dead. And he's like, I don't get it, man. You guys go to all these shows, isn't it just the same thing every night? I'm like, well, isn't baseball just a pitcher and a batter and a catcher? Well, no, the pitchers and then the pitch, and then you got to do the play in the field. And then he went, oh, I go, yeah, the Grateful Dead do not play it the same every night.
Mm-hmm.
And the little light bulb went off. And I don't know if I ever went to see the Grateful Dead, but it was kind of cool that he like, oh, this is
Yeah.
why.
Well,
And then
sometimes you have to explain things in people's own language for them to get it.
and then I was out to dinner with my family. So I saw the Dead in Europe in 1990, but I didn't tell anybody in my family I was going because my mom used to keep, haven't you seen those guys enough? I'm just like, so I just went. And then like 5 years later, I was out to like a Christmas dinner with everybody in California. My mom had come out from Ohio, and we were talking about something. I'm like, yeah, well, when I saw the Dead in Germany, and the whole table's like, what? Oh, right. I never told anybody I went. But people just don't get it sometimes. But now that you've been to four Fish shows, you're probably getting it a
I
little
get
bit.
it. No, everyone's like now I get it. They're finally accepting of me now that I've traveled for a show, and now they're getting jealous. They're like, wait a minute, you traveled to a show and you're in your fourth show already? I'm like, yeah. And they're like, oh, and then I know everything now. I know the slang. They're taking me seriously now.
So I never didn't. Um, I'm basically welcome on the bus.
Yes.
So after Brent died in '89, they hired a guy, Vince Welnick, to play keyboards. I'd never really adapted to Vince. I did like 1990 when Bruce Hornsby was playing, but it's just something about that guy. I just don't think it was the right fit, and then it just, went to shit. So, to switch gears, let me pull this one up. Uh, I have some Frank Zappa songs. I think I'll just send you in an email.
Okay.
You might want to see. I mean, I can say them if you want, but
No, you can send them to me. I mean, whatever. We have time for whatever you want. So
those, um, because I have a feeling you might like them. A lot of people don't, but I like a lot of music that people don't.
I might. I like weird things. You see my music taste. Sometimes I
Yeah,
listen to
yeah.
something
No, I
and
think you
I'm
might
like,
like
I
him,
love
and you
it.
might see his influence where Trey and Paige definitely listened to Frank
Okay.
Zappa.
Great.
Oh, and that's right. When Phil started his, so Jerry died, and I really didn't go to very many concerts for a couple of years. Um, and then I thought I wrote that down. And then in 90, shit, because it's on YouTube, and you might find this fast. Europe, Jerry was better. Okay, Checkmark Charlie, which you've seen. Um, Rat Dog Film Friends. Oh, so Phil tried a couple of different bands at first. And there's a guy called Steve Kimmock that played with him for a while, but something happened between him and his Phil's wife, and they didn't get
Oh.
not like
Oh, they had a fight. Okay.
backroom stuff. Like
Okay.
no, just they didn't get along. But he did three shows at the Warfield in '99 where Paige and Trey played with him.
Really?
Really good sugaree.
Oh, my new favorite song.
Um, they're all on video on YouTube.
Oh, sweet.
And Steve was there, and John Molo, who was Phil's drummer a lot. He used to play with Bruce Hornsby. He used to play with John Fogerty from Creedence Clearwater. The guy,
Okay.
the voice, John Fogerty used the
Yes.
voice. And then Phil got these people together, and we used to call it the Q for about 6 years. It was Jimmy Herring, who now plays with Widespread Panic,
Okay. Yes, I've heard
because
of.
their guitar player died.
Yes, sadly, of cancer, I think.
Um, Warren Haynes, who played with the Allman Brothers for 20 years, and Government Mule, his own band.
I love that everything's crossover. It's kind of incestuous, but I like it.
Yeah. And Rob Baraka was on keyboards. He plays at that Dead cover band, Dark Star Orchestra. That band was great. And they were pulling out songs that, like, because Jerry was wasted, there was certain songs they couldn't play anymore, like St. Stephen the 11.
Oh, so pretty.
Um, and the 11 is actually in 11. I don't know if you
I
realize that.
do. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6,
Yeah.
7, 8, 9, 1, 2. That's how I was counting it. I was going 1, 2,
Yeah.
3, 4. Da, 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 da,
Yeah.
da, 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 da,
Um,
da. That's how I was conducting it.
Playing in the band is in 10. It was actually,
10? Oh, so they must go 1, 2, 3, 4. I don't know if they do 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, or they could do 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3,
I'm
1.
not
Or they
sure.
could do 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3,
It's in
4.
10. And
Yeah.
estimated profit is in 7.
Yes. So I think that's they count it in 3 and then 4. 1, 2, 3. Or you can do 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2. That's probably
Yeah.
it. 1, 2, 3, 1,
You
2,
can do
1,
either
2, 1,
one.
2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2.
Yeah.
Yeah. I figured that out too. Yeah. I love that. Weird. That's because they had the weird drummer guy. Like he told me about in the documentary. The drummer's like, oh, and then I was into these like weird polyrhythms from the east, and let's just put them
Oh, Mickey
in.
Hart. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like let's do
Yeah.
polyrhythms, and it was like no one had ever even understood. And that's why it's not easy for people. Not everyone
Because
is that musical.
people, Billy was like the drummer, and Mickey was more of a percussionist. Um, so then, so outside of Warren Haynes playing with Phil and his own band and the Allman Brothers, which he actually played a show in Indianapolis, and all three bands were there. So Warren played for like 8.5 hours because Government Mule, and then it was the Allman Brothers, and it was Phil and Friends. So a guy named Derek Trucks was also in the Allman Brothers because they changed. So like their last 20 years, they were their guitar players. Derek Trucks has met Susan Tedeschi. They're married now with some kids. They have a band that's worth going to see, especially if you can see them at the Beacon in New York, called the Tedeschi Trucks Band. Three vocalists, three horn players, two drummers. Susan sings. Uh, Derek's one of the best slide players in the world. In fact, when Eric Clapton did a tour a few years ago, he asked him to go on the tour with him because his slide playing's just, I don't know if there's a better slide player than Derek. So and when I saw Phil on 2001 New Year's Eve, it was a great four-set show. Um, and Bobby and the other guys from the Dead came out and played for a little while called something Rabbit. I forget what they called that. And then Derek and Susan were at the last set, and they announced the fact that they were engaged at that concert.
Mm,
But that's a great band worth seeing.
okay.
So have you ever heard of the Avett Brothers?
Abbott Brothers.
Avett with a V.
No.
Okay, I think you'd like them. If you like Billy Strings, I think you'd like them.
Okay, so they're bluegrass?
They are, but they do have a drummer.
Okay, not traditional then, but
So they call
bluegrass
it jamgrass, and
inspired.
then they have a woman's playing a Japanese guy playing a cello and a woman playing violin. They're just an interesting combination.
Okay, well, string cheese incident has a violinist.
Yes, they do. Yeah,
So
I've seen them a bunch. I'm a big cheese
see,
fan.
see how
It's
I'm
so
all in
funny.
all the jam bands now, and I'm
See,
just
it's so
like,
funny. So back in the early days, spreadheads, they used to call them, widespread panic fans, and fish heads, they didn't, fish heads didn't like widespread, and widespread didn't like fish.
oh,
But
well, they
both
were
of them
different
like
fan bases. I heard one was like a
both of them
fraternity.
like string cheese incident.
The people liked each. Oh, so the bands didn't like each other, but both liked string cheese incident.
Yes.
Okay.
I actually went to all three. I don't understand all the
Can't all
bullshit.
the jam band people just get along? And
Can't we all just
but
get
now
along?
everybody, now the fish fans like to hate on the goose fans because they're like, But some people like both, but then
No,
they
I
don't
don't.
want to admit it.
I don't. Goose just didn't draw me in. I don't care about their fans. Or, more power to them. If you can make a living playing music, more power to you.
They just sold out Madison Square Garden, whatever that means. But yes, they were there this weekend.
Goose did?
Yes, they just
Wow.
that's why this weekend was so epic. I did a little short on this, but Fish was in Austin, Widespread Panic was playing Red Rocks, and at the same time Goose was in Madison Square Garden for one night, but it was apparently a sold out amazing thing. I'm going to talk to my little goosling. I call her my little
Yeah.
gosling, my little goose girl. And we're going to recap because she did the whole tour and now it's over, but I'm going to see
So
what that was like because apparently it
I
was
saw
great.
the dad at Madison Square. It's not my favorite place to see a concert.
It's big. I mean, it's
It,
a
it
basketball
is
arena.
because of where it is and everything, but Red Rocks, it's worth going to.
I do want to go.
So Green Sky Bluegrass. Have you heard of them? You'd probably like them too.
Okay.
Uh, and then I've mentioned Government Mule a couple times, and I believe you know who String Cheese is. We
Yes.
talked about Pigeons. There's a
Oh,
band called
yeah, pigeons, whatever they're
Plain
called.
Ping Pong.
That's so stupid. I mean, like, and now I get
Oh,
why these
fun.
people. Well, now I get why the famous people, when they have their own side band, they just say Jerry Garcia band, Trey
Yeah.
Anastasio band. They're like, let's not come up with another stupid name of a band,
Yeah.
because some people had, well, like Dave Grohl was in Nirvana, then he started the Foo Fighters. He could have been
Yeah.
the Dave Grohl band. He was famous enough at that
Yes.
point coming
Yes, he
from
was.
Nirvana, but no, he's like, I'll make a band called the Foo Fighters. But now it's like, no, just have your name and a band behind it. The Steve Miller Band. Like, don't, otherwise you're going to end up with pigeons playing ping pong as your name.
They're a lot of fun, though. They're worth going to see. So, towards the end there, then Phil had a place called Terrapin Crossroads up in San Rafael for 10 years until they didn't renew his lease and decided to make it into a Jeep dealership or something. Um, so his son had a band called Midnight North. They're pretty good. I don't know if they're still together or not, but a lot of people would come and play with Phil there, and it was just a really cool scene. I mean, I was living up in Santa Rosa at the time for about 4.5 years. I
Right.
think I must have gone to Terrapin like every week for something.
Oh, wow. So cool that that
Um,
existed.
so there's a woman, I can't remember her name right now, plays keyboard. She was in a band called Ghostlight, which is different and interesting. Um, Yonder Mountain String Band. There's a band called Trampled by Turtles, another one you'll just love the name.
I just love it.
Humphreys McGee,
Oh, yes, I've
Tedeschi
heard of them.
Trucks.
I've heard of the Humphreys, McGee, and Tedeschi Trucks, yeah.
Yeah, all worth seeing, or at least listening to.
Man, I feel like You have to really start to prioritize this stuff because
Yes.
time gets shorter and shorter.
Yeah. I've had a lot longer time to do it than
Well,
you.
yeah, that's true. I mean, no, I'm turning 40 this year, believe it or not.
I
I
know you
know.
are, and there's a band called Garfunkel and Oates, which is a play off Simon and Garfunkel
Mhm.
and Hall and Oates.
Okay.
It's two women.
Okay.
I was thinking about sending you a link to this song where the one's singing about being 39 and the other one's singing about being 40. And
Uh
they're a comedy thing. It's a comedy
That's so
thing.
funny. Okay, yeah, exactly. I'm almost 40, so whatever. But then I'm thinking about it, and I'm like, well, I've done a lot in 40 years, and I guess I have another 40 years. So, like, I just got to
Yep.
stay really active because I need to stop thinking of, like, oh no, once I'm 50, I'm over, or once I'm 60, I'm over. It's like, no, you
I
got
just
to
went to
think,
Japan to see Bandmate.
yeah, I need to think more like the first 10 years
I'm
of your life.
65.
Exactly. And really, the first 10 years of my life, I was a kid, right? So, really, you don't really start living till you're
Yeah.
15, I think. So, technically, I've only really lived 25 years. So, think of all the stuff I've done in 25 years since the age 15. So, that's a lot
Yeah,
that I can get done in the next 25. So,
you're fine. You got plenty
I'll
of
be
time.
fine. Yeah, but it's like a very interesting. I feel young, and also what makes me feel young is that I am having so many older people that are watching my channel, interacting, that think I'm young, and I love that. So they're like a young person listening to the
Well,
Beatles. I'm like, I'm not that
you
young,
are
but
you are young.
yeah, I'm young compared. Yes, so it's great. We all need to have the generations connect. It like doesn't matter. We're all aging together too. That's the thing. It's like everyone my age is still my age. We're
Of
all
course,
just
in the early 70s, I would have been, 10, 11, 12. And I used to wonder, to be honest, I wonder if I'll be alive in 2000.
at 2000. Well, you made it to 2025, so
And
congratulations.
of
You made
course,
it.
when you're 10, oh, I might be 40. Oh my God.
Yeah. No, when you're 10, you think 30 is so old. You're like, oh my God, anyone over 25 is so old, right? But yeah, now we're here in 2025. We're still here. And yeah. I mean, there's people older than you. Like, there's like really old
Actually, I was
people.
at a Bandmade show in Hiroshima, and there was a guy from Korea there that spoke English. I don't speak foreign languages. I can get by with a little bit of Spanish and a couple of polite things in Japanese. Um, and I said, "Well, yeah, I'm probably old for this because I'm 65." And the guy's like, "Oh no." He was like 70. He lives in Ohio. He flew there to see Bandmade.
Yeah. No, I mean, I love it.
So,
I love when I see octogenarians and nonagenarians out and about. So it's possible. You just have to stay fit and active, and you can't stop. If you stop
and
walking, that's when things deteriorate. That's what I've
have a
seen from
garden and listen to music.
Yes, just don't fall and keep walking. It's when people stop walking, that's when they kind of die really fast, it seems.
Yeah.
So as long as you keep walking, people can
Yeah.
be
In the
fine.
summer, I still do a part-time job just to keep me active.
Oh, that's great. Yeah. It's important. I think unless you have a lot of hobbies or a lot of family or something, I think retirement can be kind of a drag
Yeah.
because you
And
have to
once I get my second bedroom finished, because I'm doing a remodel, my drum set's going in there. I'm gonna start playing drums again.
Exactly. You have to have something to do every day. I think people were not meant to just leisure around, and it's kind of a
Yeah.
depressing thing to do. So I think it's really good to have hobbies and just have something
Yeah.
and work on playing piano or
One of my hobbies is watching young people watch music that I listened to when I was 14 years old.
that's because it brings you back. Oh, okay. I want to go over some of the comments that we got on the video
Okay.
because I thought they were really nice, and I think it
Yeah,
sounds like you
I don't
haven't
even know
read
why
them.
I didn't look at that.
It's
I don't
fine.
know.
I'm going to read them to you. So people will see them on the screen, but you won't. So I'll just read it out loud and you will hold on. Let me make that bigger because I have to do this all on my side. To you, I just look like me, but to everybody else, they'll get to see this big, big comment. Okay, because I want to make this nice and large so people can read. Okay, this person says, I saw my first Dead concert in Syracuse in late 1971. The first rock concert I ever saw was the Jefferson Airplane in 1969, 2 weeks after Volunteers came out. I haven't
Yeah.
seen the Dead as many times as these interviewees, but I did get to see NRPS warm up with Jerry Garcia still playing the pedal steel. I
Okay, so that was the acoustic phase in 1970.
Okay,
Do you know what NRPS is?
no.
New Riders of the Purple Sage.
Oh,
It was a
okay.
band.
See, these are things. And then he says, I agree that you should listen to Sugary. One studio album you should listen to when you get a chance is the Gary Garcia first solo album, so you can hear his experiments with pedal steel. He also
Yep.
plays it on Blows Again the Empire, Jefferson Starship, and on Bob Weir's Ace.
Yes, he does.
He's right about the change in how people got high at concerts, but it had actually changed by Powder Ridge and Altamont and Watkins Glen. What do you think about that?
So Watkins Glen was one of the biggest concerts ever, 650,000 people. It was the Allman Brothers, the Grateful Dead, and the band. I don't know if you know who the band is.
Wow, that's very brave of them to call themselves the band.
And they were great. Um, so I don't really know any negative stuff that happened there. Of course, the parking became it was just too big. Um, Altamont was, I'm pretty sure Jerry said we're not going to play. So it was the Rolling Stones were not invited to Woodstock.
Ooh, snub.
And so they wanted to have a festival, and they had one in California. Um, and the Hells Angels were security, and they killed a guy.
Drama.
And I'm pretty sure there's a scene of Jerry getting off the helicopter. It's like, what? They, somebody's been killed? I think they left. I don't think they played. But I could be wrong. I, my memory could be wrong. But Altamont is considered the end of the Woodstock era,
Okay.
because of what happened there. Monterey Pop in '67, which is a great version of Janis Joplin singing Ball and Chain from Monterey Pop, was worth a watch.
Okay.
Uh, Monterey Pop was great. And then, Woodstock was considered great, even though it had its issues. And then Altamont, he's right, that, or she, I don't know, um, was kind of the beginning of the end. But the '70s were pretty free and easy for me. Um, and I like my childhood. So, um, but Altamont is a sore spot. Um, and, but the Dead's music didn't change in a negative way because of that. So it did hurt the scene, and it gave something for the establishment to point to and see, these people are wrong.
Right. The drugs and they're going
The
to cause
drugs, somebody
problems.
got killed, and you know, but it didn't affect my personal scene
Okay.
until '83 and '84.
Okay. I thought, okay, this is another good comment that I think is really nice. He said, I'm an even older fan. I was 10 when the Beatles appeared, 14 when Pink Floyd, Velvet Underground, and Jimi Hendrix blew everything apart, and 15 when Anthem of the Sun reassembled music. I saw the band first in 1970 and then on the 1972 European tour. That was
Uh,
enough to get my seat on the bus and enabled me to cherry pick the rest of their career, ignoring most of their lackluster studio albums, the only opportunity to hear them in the UK, until I discovered most of their live music post 1990, when Dick started picking and the archive appeared. My
yeah,
Grateful Dead deliberately omits most of the Brent and Vince eras, and I'm currently very into spring 1978 when the balance between voices and instruments suits my ears.
yeah.
I only saw them twice more in 1980 and 1990, so didn't have to witness Garcia's sad decline other than through his prematurely old voice.
So those were two times when they went to Europe. This person's from Europe. They went in 72, 80. There was 72, 84, or something like that, and then 90. So that they had a big fan base. I mean, Europe 72 is like, that's my favorite. But also 77 and 78. I mean, I'd say 72, 72, 73, 77, 78. So I agree with what he's saying. Um, the Beatles was the first, Santana and the Beatles, when I was 10, were the first two albums I bought. Um, I wasn't into Jimmy till a little later, and I just am not a huge Velvet Underground fan. I don't understand why they're this big iconic thing that people say changed the world.
Okay.
But whatever. I mean, we're all into different stuff. I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah.
you know, I mean, I know who they are. I've heard their albums. They have a very famous album cover
Uh-huh.
with a banana on the cover.
Uh-huh.
It's just white with a banana.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and that album he mentions, The Grateful Dead, is a very strange album.
Okay.
Um,
I don't think I've heard it yet.
the studio was very annoyed with them because they spent a lot of overtime uh, mixing and doing weird shit on that album. But that was because like their first album is weird, and then that was their second album, and way psychedelic. It definitely
Mm-hmm.
changed things. But back then, record companies were starting to delve into that stuff because they knew there was an audience to buy it because they only cared about people buying albums.
Oh yeah. Okay, this is a comment where he disagrees with something, and then I think you can refute this now. So let's hear what he says. He says, "I don't agree with his opinion of Garcia's playing. Definitely when Jerry was really struggling with both cocaine and heroin, a lot probably from 1982 until 1984, I think the music suffered a bit. But he was still practicing and improving his chops. It's obvious. Even when he was really strung out, you could tell he was always adding new techniques to his playing. Maybe this guy isn't a musician or doesn't have an ear for that sort of thing. This is what I deal with all the time, by the way, so don't take offense. The chemistry of
I
the
don't.
band was at its peak definitely from 1987 to 1990. Jerry's playing was way better certainly after the coma until like 92. It's not like he got worse at playing guitar personally. When I listen to the 70s stuff, I see a lot of weaknesses in his guitar playing back then that didn't appear in the late 80s and very early 90s. No tea, so much weakness, but it's obvious that he hadn't been playing as long. The only time I saw his playing start to diminish was like 94 or 95 because he was having problems with losing feelings in his hands due to diabetes and carpal tunnel syndrome." Do you have a refuting? Do you have a refuting or
Well, I
agreement
definitely
or?
disagree.
Yeah, that's fine. I'm saying that's why this is what it's all about. I
Um,
love it. Someone took the time to wrote. You'll see later when you look at it. It's like
um,
this fat.
and yes, I do listen because yes, I am a musician and I've been in probably 12 bands and I
Yeah,
played professionally for probably 10 years.
yeah.
Um, and I love guitar
Mm-hmm.
and I love Jerry's guitar.
Mm-hmm.
But like I said before, there were spots.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really agree about 87, but 89 and 90, there were some spots. But I kept going to shows. I saw shows all those years. I still love them.
Yeah.
I just saw a change. And because people like different things, I mean, he got into a MIDI guitar so he could sound like a trumpet while he was playing and
Oh,
stuff.
that's funny.
Um, and did he try new techniques? Yes. Did he have a new guitar build? Yes. Was he as good as he was in 78? No.
Yeah, 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 no. I love. I,
But
I like the. Yeah, I like this comeback 'cause it's good.
but people like different things in music. So maybe some of his tones and stuff hit that guy's heart
Yeah.
that didn't hit mine.
Yep. Fair.
I just disagree. He certainly has the right to his opinion.
For sure, for sure. Okay, I like that comment. But see, people take so much time. Okay, here's a good one. The Grateful Dead became a corporation. I highly recommend reading Dennis McNally's book, A Long Strange Trip. At one point in the early 90s, during one of their board meetings, Jerry said, "Is it me or do we need a effing break?" The room was silent. Everyone stiffened up in their chairs. College tuition, alimony, child support, mortgages, salaries, etc. It was all on the band to keep the machine running, and the pressure was immense on Jerry. Not to mention, the Jerry Garcia band was essentially fueling his and John Conn's drug habit and nothing more.
Yeah, John died pretty soon after Jerry did. Um, so they did become a big corporation, and I never heard that comment. It doesn't mean it didn't happen,
Yeah.
but I believe the band should have taken a break,
Mm-hmm.
and Garcia might be alive. And what they probably should have done to me was play fewer shows, or maybe take longer breaks, and then maybe just announce the shows like 4 or 5 days before the concert,
Mm-hmm.
so they could play smaller venues and, and not be this corporate machine. They did become a machine. I mean, there was 5 years in a row, I'm pretty sure, that they grossed more than any other band in the world
Mm-hmm.
because they were touring so much.
Yeah.
But they also had a bigger staff than any other band in the world. Um, I wish they would have taken a break.
Mm-hmm.
But Jerry might still be alive.
Well, he'd have to really have cleaned up and gotten healthy because,
Right.
I mean, he'd be 80 years old now, right?
He would have had to get off the drug. He was born in 42.
Yeah. So he's like as old as, is he a little older than Bob Weir, I guess?
No, Bob was a baby. So Jerry and Phil were like in their uh, young mid 20s, and they had to go to Bobby's house
Oh.
to convince his mom to let him play because he
Okay.
was
Well,
like
Jerry Garcia,
17 or
well,
something.
then Jerry Garcia would be 60 plus 25. I mean, he'd be
Yeah, he might
he
not be
might be
around
he might be
anymore, but he could have
88.
lived longer than
Yes, he
he.
could have lived past 95. He could have had one more decade for
But
sure.
Bobby was the youngest by
Okay,
far.
that's why he's still up there on stage,
Yeah,
you
he
know.
was 5, 6, 7 years younger than the other guys.
Okay,
He
here's
was like he was
another.
a teenage. He was a teenager.
Uh-huh. Here's a comment. He goes, for your info, almost every Deadhead I know always thinks that the band was at their best when they were 19, 18, 19 years old. Meaning, like, when you were 19, that's when people think it's the best. Me, well, I'm with Bob Weir when I say Spring 90 was the Grateful Dead's high watermark, particularly mid-late March 90. He's just saying that because he was 19 years old in
I get it.
1990.
It's when he got on the bus and he was having
Yeah,
fun. I I,
exactly.
I get that.
Yeah, yeah. So he's saying it's
Um,
common
but
experience that.
and actually Jerry cleaned up for a little while then, so there was some good moments. But if you listen critically and you're a musician, come on.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, this comment's good. This is someone who thinks they know they've seen you before. This person's like, if you go enough times, you start seeing the same people over and over. I swear I've
Yes.
seen him before. The first time I heard "Comes a Time" was July 6, 2001. Phil Lesh and Friends, the quintet. Warren Haynes sings it, and I was at the show. I
The
nearly
cue.
started
Yeah.
crying. It was so emotional. Warren Haynes sings the song perfectly. Comes a time.
Yes.
When the blind man takes your hand, says, "Don't you see?"
Don't you see?
All religions are cults, but Jerry could make you experience things no one else could. It wasn't just talk, it was amazing.
I can agree with that. And it's, the words are Robert Hunter, though. They're not Jerry Garcia.
Right,
He just wrote the music.
right. Well,
Robert,
I think he fused, yes, Hunter.
they were definitely,
Yeah, I think it was like a marriage, right? It's like
yes,
one was the music. I mean, it's kind of like how Elton John doesn't write any of his words, but all his
that's
songs are
correct.
good, right? So
Yeah.
he's working with someone so closely, but everyone thinks, oh, it's Elton John. But it is. But I think he just takes the poetry and sets it really well. But I
Like
mean,
Robert Hunter's version of Terrapin Station is very different than the Grateful Dead's.
I bet. But like, I mean, I am a classical singer, so I'm going to talk about a little right now art song. So in an opera and art songs like Schubert sets poetry, and the French composers set, French Verlaine and all these kind of French poetry to music. But they were just the musician. I mean, they were just taking a poem and interpreting it. And same with opera. There's a librettist who's writing the script, and then the composer's writing it. But like, it's still the genius of the composer. I still see it's like
Yes.
so important that both are there, but I don't see it, I
It,
don't see it any less Mozart, even though he didn't write the words to the Marriage of Figaro. They're by Dupont, but
right.
yeah. All right, let's see what else. Okay, so those are mainly our comments in our last video, but as you can see, people are taking this seriously. Like they really like the interviews, they like the interaction, and I think it's so sweet that like we inspire memories,
Yeah.
right? Kind of like how after our conversation, it then triggered memories because I think unless you talk about it actively, we don't, because you started remembering things as you're telling me the stories. I see your brain, start to spin, and then you're like, oh,
Yeah,
wait,
you
I
make me
forgot about
think.
this. It's
You
good.
made me think about the monoculture thing in Tokyo. I had to think about that for a while
But don't you
afterwards.
agree about it? Like that it's
I
like,
do. I do, but I'd never looked at it like that.
yeah, I just saw it like that because I knew just from a background before going, I was like, okay, I know that they didn't like foreigners kind of initially, or like foreigners were seen as very
Yeah, I never got
different.
that feeling.
Not like, but like didn't see you as one of them.
Yeah,
Like they might be polite and they might be very welcoming, like as a guest, like, oh, but they're
yeah,
still never going to see you as one of them. And it's very hard to become integrated in that society. So only in a situation where like an American woman marries a Japanese man and then becomes Japanese basically and then raises her
right,
kids in Japanese culture that then maybe they accept that woman as Japanese. But if a random American family moves in and tries to be
right.
American, they're always going to be seen as like foreigners who are just
Yeah,
like
if I
living
moved
there.
there, I definitely would learn Japanese.
Yes, of course. Like that's the thing is like I can't. imagine once you're there in a different country and you're literally committed to living there, you got to at least know how to ask for directions and order food in a restaurant, even if it's like basic conversation. People appreciate even that little bit of effort. But yeah, so yeah, now we've been chatting about an hour and a half, which is good. We only did an hour last time. So anything else we need to wrap up in this episode?
I'm
Or we
just
can
going to
always
mention a couple other Jerry songs.
Yes. Okay.
Mission in the Rain.
Okay.
And he does covers if that's what love will make you do. But he wrote They Love Each Other. He does a cover of Brothers and Sisters, which is actually a religious song, but it's great. He Ain't Give You None, which is a Van Morrison song, which I hope you have heard of Van.
I haven't. Well, I've heard of Van Morrison. I haven't heard that song.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, as long as you've heard of him.
Yeah, remember when you thought, have you heard of the Grateful Dead? And I go, yes, I've heard of the
Yeah,
band.
I
I hadn't
actually-
heard them. I know that was you. So I'm saying that's why when we went through all these other musicians, some of them I
Yeah.
said I had heard of, but I hadn't heard the songs. Most of them.
Right, that's fine.
Yeah, so
was
some I
just-
hadn't even
was
heard
gonna
of.
say,
No,
there's
luckily-
no way. She lives in California. Has never heard
I
of it.
know. I've seen the Dancing Bear shirts. I was just like, why are these people so cultish? Like, why are they wearing these Dancing Bears? But guess what I'm doing tonight? I'm meeting, remember my first interviewee, Jeff?
Yep.
He's in California for like the
Oh, that's
holiday
cool.
week, and we're meeting up. So I'm already
that's
like
cool.
making friends for my channel. So
That's cool.
yeah, it's like the
And he
whole.
does a very cool version of Let Me Roll It, which is a Paul McCartney song.
Okay, I think it's cool that he was able to do more like covers and stuff like that, like when he did
Yeah.
Jerry
He
Garcia.
did a lot of fun covers
Because covers are nice. Because
in Garcia.
there's already so many good songs. It's like, well, it's great if you can write your own good song, but if you can't write a good song, just make a really cool cover of something that exists.
And then Phil wrote two songs in the Grateful Dead, Unbroken Chain and Box of Rain. which
I'm
you should-
surprised he didn't write more, considering he was a composer coming in.
He wrote symphonies and stuff.
Right, so I'm surprised
Yeah.
he didn't write more Grateful Dead songs.
He had a few, he contributed a lot, but he wasn't, 100% the writer.
Interesting,
So,
because he had the
That's
background.
that's probably all I have to inundate you with.
No, it's a lot. I mean, I'm
The only reason I said when I was here is you can always go back and just listen to
I
what
know,
he said.
exactly, and it gets transcribed eventually, and then the subtitles are hopefully not messed up. But today is 1 month from. 1 month from now is my Dead and Company Day 1, Billy Stream.
Oh, so
August
Jerry was
1st.
born on August 1st, so you know that it has something to do with why.
That day is gonna be crazy. Okay, so we're going
And
on
I was
Jerry's
born on
birthday.
August 31st. He was born the first day, and I was born the last
So
day.
much in common. So yeah, so that's like now I'm down in the 30 days. I'm in my all right, we're in the pit. So I'm back from my vacation. I'm on summer. I have less students this whole summer. So every day I'm doing
Right.
even more videos per day. Like today I've
I
already
think you're getting pretty close to being ready, but they are going to play 3 completely different shows.
of course.
And they do play a lot of Jerry songs. It's not just Bobby. There was a time in 78, where Jerry got laryngitis. There's 3 shows that are just all Bobby. They didn't cancel the shows. It's just all Bobby shows. And then I saw him right after that at the Shrine.
Yeah.
And Jerry was singing, but you could tell he was having problems, but he was starting to sing again. So yeah, they do a wide variety of the history of the Grateful Dead.
That's
So,
great.
I think you'll have fun.
Yeah, no, I think all I need to do is get through this book, and I think I'll be ready, because this is like all the big hits, Alabama Getaway, Althea, Attics of My Life,
Althea, great song.
Birdsong, Black Peter, Box of Rain, Broke Down Palace. I just did Brown Eyed Women.
Broke Down Palace, great song.
Candyman's on here. Casey Jones is on here. I heard that one in the movie because they were like,
Yeah.
Casey Jones, smoking cocaine or something. I was like, what?
Yeah,
I was like, how did this song get past the censors? Okay, China Cat Sunflower, of course.
It's
I
not one of
know.
my favorite songs.
China Doll, Cold Rain and Snow, Cumberland Blues. Now I know that one. Dark Star, I know that one. Direwolf, Easy Win, Estimated Profit. I know that one. Look at me. I'm like an expert now. Eyes of the
Easy Win's
World.
a Pigpen song, actually.
Okay, Eyes of the World. I know that one. Fire on the Mountain. Franklin's Tower. I know Franklin's Tower. Friend
You
of
heard
the Devil.
Fire? Have you done a
haven't-
Scarlet Fire?
No, I
yet?
haven't done Fire on the Mountain. So see?
You should do a Scarlet Fire from the late 70s.
Okay.
Scarlet
Scarlet
into Fire.
Begonia. So Scarlet Begonia's
Into Fire on the Mountain.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
See, this book's actually what I should have had all along, because it's all these are the ones that everyone wants to play. Friend of the Devil, The Golden Road, Hell in a
Famous. Yeah.
Bucket, High Time, and then of course, I Know You Rider, my favorite song, Jack Straw, my other favorite song, Looks Like Rain, Me and
They
My
actually didn't
Uncle,
write I Know You're Right, or it's just a traditional old song.
that's what I heard,
Yeah.
Mississippi Half Step Uptown Toodle-Doo.
Great song.
Okay, Walk Me Out in the Morning Dew.
Ithaca 1977.
Okay, The Music Never Stopped.
Great song.
It's New Speedway
It's right
Boogie.
after Help Slip Franklin's on the album.
Okay, New Speedway Boogie.
New Speedway Boogie, great song.
And then One More Saturday Night. I know that one now. One More Saturday Night. Okay. Operator.
Another
Playing
Pigpen
it,
song.
playing in the band.
Yeah, playing can get pretty spacey if you listen to really old ones.
Okay. Well,
It could be a
that would be
30 minute.
funny. That would be funny for me just to cover the basic version then, because that won't be anything like
Yeah,
how they performed
yeah,
it.
that's a pretty good start. They'll probably play out. They were not going to play the Pigpen songs, most
Okay.
likely.
Yeah. Well, I don't like that. They're the blues ones. I don't like. So.
They're not all blues, but
Yeah, I'm
and
like,
they're
oh,
not all
I'm
slow.
like,
You
oh
might like.
no, pig pens and neglected. I'm gonna be fine. Okay, Ramble on Rose, Ripple, which I
Yep.
did, Rosemary, I don't know that one.
I don't really care
Okay,
for that song.
Saint Stephen, I listened to and I love it. It's one
Love
of my
that song.
favorite. Shakedown Street, I still haven't heard that.
Super popular.
Ship of Fools,
I love that song.
Stella
Ann Arbor
Blue.
79.
Okay, Ann Arbor 7 and
Great
9.
version of Ship of Fools.
Okay, Ship of Fools, Ann Arbor 79. I'm putting that in my mind right now. Okay, Stella Blue.
Yeah, it's a beautiful Jerry song.
I bet a lot of people named their daughter Stella Blue.
It's I don't know. It's a guitar
Yeah,
actually.
it's a
It's Stella
guitar.
guitar, but it would
But I'm
have been
sure someone, I bet people have named their daughter Stella
sure.
Blue.
Like how many kids name their children Dylan?
Well, how many people were Sugar Magnolia? I bet some girls are named Sugar Magnolia. That's the next one. And
Used to be a
Sugary.
popular. It
There's
used to
my
be a,
Sugary, the video coming out soon of
I
I
saw that. That's one
Terrapin
of my favorites.
Station. Okay, Till the Morning Comes. And then of course we have Touch of Grey here. We have Truckin', which I heard. Uncle John's Band, Victim of the
Great song.
Crime, and the last one, Wharf Rat, because this is alphabetical.
Wharf Rat's a really good song. I'm curious to find out what you think about it.
See, this book is all I need to do. So if I
It's
just
a little
follow,
longer. I actually go by the name Online Bridge when I play. My name is August West. That's the character in Wharf Rat.
oh, oh, you play
And I used
bridge. You're a
to.
bridge player, huh?
I just started. My family's played my whole life. I just started maybe
And
four
that's
or
the
five
four
years
player
ago.
one where you play with someone across you, right?
Yes.
Yeah. I used to play hearts online. It was hard.
So my family, my brother, my sister, and brother-in-law, we play online bridge. We call it inebriated bridge, and
That's fun. It's like
we all
wine, a little wine night.
we all get a little buzzed while we're
Yeah.
playing.
Is it a whiskey or wine night? What are we doing
I
here?
drink tequila.
Oh, I love tequila. That's what I had at the fish concert. I was
I sip tequila and chase and drink a lot of water.
I do tequila soda, like the same thing. You just you don't get dehydrated. My mistake on night one of the fish show this weekend was that the first night I switched to a White Claw the second half. Not a good idea. The second night I was only tequila soda. I was so
Yeah,
energetic.
just
I was so right. It's smooth,
sip a
and
little
you never,
tequila.
and you just have, and with that water, I never
Yeah,
got dehydrated. So yeah,
yeah.
and it doesn't even
I drink
impact
a
me.
lot
It's
of water.
clear. I mean, it's like it's so healthy compared to
Yeah,
beer
I
and
drink
stuff.
4 or 5 liters of water a day.
Wow, good. You're a healthy guy. So, all right. Well, I'm excited. I think between this book and everyone's recommendations, I
Yeah.
think we have a plan, and I think it's going to get completed by August 1st. So I think we are. I'm on fire here. You know, like I'm just like, and they're like, some people are like, how you this is a half-ass reaction while you're folding clothes. I'm like, I'm sorry that you don't have a like.
While you were packing your 15 outfits to go for 2 days to Austin.
I actually took out half the stuff before I left. I didn't tell everyone about that. Right before I left the night, I got look at my suitcase. I'm like, this is ridiculous, and I like took half of it out, which is what I always do because I overpack and then I realize I don't need it, and then I could have still taken out more, but it was fine. And then I'm like, look,
Well,
you guys sit in front of the do you guys always sit in front of your computer with your camera on yourself while you listen to music? And then they're like, oh, you're right. You know, it's like, don't you have a
oh,
life? Like, don't you ever garden
dishes,
with
you do
headphones in? And they're
whatever.
like,
Yeah.
oh, okay, this is kind of real. I'm like, yes, relatable. You know, just be real.
So the Ithaca 77 show, it's a great morning dew. It's a good Scarlet Fire too.
Okay, good. I'm glad you're telling
And
me all
you'll be
these.
able to find that stuff online.
Yay! All right.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. This was great.
Yeah.
We had a long
Thank you.
now
I'm
an hour
glad.
and 40 minutes, and now we've done
Yep.
2 hours and 40 minutes of you. So we've got. And if you remember anything else, take notes, and we'll do another one. We have to
Well,
document it all.
I'm looking forward to see how you like the shows.
All right. That will be a whole.
And where?
That'll,
Oh, they're playing at Golden Gate Park, aren't they?
yeah, at the
Yeah.
polo field. So I'm gonna.
Oh, they played there once a long time ago.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be great. I'm
Do they
excited.
have? Do they have many concerts there?
Yeah, that's where they have the Outside Lands Festival.
Outside Lands.
So
Yep.
Outside Lands is the following weekend, which is why I think it's going to be so easy for them to do it because Outside Lands already brings in the bathrooms, they already bring in the
Right.
bus transportation, they already
Yeah.
have the Uber Lyft area. So I think they figured, oh, that's August 8th through 11th. Why
Yeah.
not have the prior weekend, the
Well,
Grateful
plus it's
Dead,
Jerry's birthday.
and all the vendors that are coming in can just stay. So
And,
it's
and
Jerry's birthday.
there's one other theater in the Bay Area you should go to, the Fox in Oakland.
Yeah, I've been there before. I saw Tori Amos there.
Yeah, yeah,
I'm a
cool.
big Tori Amos fan, so
Yeah. I know who she is.
exactly. That's my kind of
Um,
thing. All right.
Beautiful.
Well, have an
Anyway, Erica, have
amazing
fun.
day, and I'll talk to you soon.
Okay.
Okay, bye.